So the big question is this: how do investors like us who don't have a PhD in finance or millions to start investing, how do we grow our bank accounts to build real savings and retirements and yet still have the time to do what we really love? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. Hey guys, Jordan here. Super excited today to talk to you about 50 inventions that shape the modern economy, coming at you from Tim Hartford. If you haven't seen my last book review on Messy by Tim Hartford, that book was freaking sick. And so because of that, we're here doing part 2, 50 inventions that shape the modern world. Now I gotta say, this one lived up to the impression. This one lived up to the hype. It has really kind of opened up my eyes. A lot of concepts economically and then overarching social, demographic, and concepts that are super important, but not ones that you would necessarily point out on your own. So today I want to kind of break down some of the top 3 insights that this book gave me. And the first one is really important, and it's about the basis of government and capital on the development of economies. That one's super important, and we're going to jump right into that one before we get into 2 more. First one focus more on inventions, looking at exactly where ideas turn into reality, turn into output in the marketplace, which is very powerful. And I can use that to actually increase your ability to deliver value to more people in the marketplace by creating your own products. And then the third one is a little bit more interesting. It's about the underlying importance of seemingly basic conceptions and inventions, and how even if you're doing something that's boring, it can actually be worth a freaking ton in value, and how you can take maybe some more simplistic ideas and turn them into very profitable ventures and realities for yourself, kids, family. Very powerful concepts in this book, and they're all elaborated through 50 amazing inventions. Here are just a couple of them on the title, but it's really cool. So with that said, let's jump into this first part where we're going to look very specifically at the second part was inventors, third part was boring shit. So here's a really great example, because one of these inventions is public key cryptography. And as you guys know, public key cryptography, the baseline of blockchain technologies, and one of the most existentially underrated, powerful uses for the internet and IP technology. So impressive. It's amazing. And it'll fundamentally change this whole field. It's insane. It's so cool. So what Tim looks at here is the origins of blockchain, because the way it works, the internet was coming out in 1970s, 1980s, very long time ago. And so because of that, it was mostly government stuff, right? So the government actually came in and saw that there were some Stanford dudes working on studying and learning about blockchain technologies and applying more specifically, not necessarily blockchain, but public-private key cryptography, which is the baseline of current blockchain, but it's more rooted in this idea of sending somebody a secret message that no one can decode unless they had the private key, which is related to the public key, which is the thing that's displayed, right? So I have A's, you have B's, I can send whatever I want to B, but the only way you can decipher what I send you is if you have the code XYZ. That's really the basis of it. And so these guys at Stanford, right, they're learning about it, they're researching it, they're developing it, and they're saying, look, this is how you can apply this is how you can grow with this. And what was really interesting is the government comes in and they send them a letter, okay? And the letter says, look, if you guys don't stop researching blockchain technologies, we're going to gank you. And we're going to gank you hard. I'm like, dude, what, right? They're just doing their thing. They're just sitting there researching. This is some guys. But then these guys come in and they're serious, man. They are absolutely hardball serious. And so what happens? Well, here's what happens. It was super interesting. They had one of their professors present their final project on this technology to this huge board of professionals. They loved it, right? They were like, wow, this is freaking crazy. The government comes in and they're flipping out over it because they don't want the public to have access this information. They don't want people to be able to comprehend the insane power behind public-private key cryptography, which is the baseline of blockchain, which is essentially just triple entry bookkeeping. And speaking of triple entry bookkeeping, that was also another thing that stemmed from the government in this book. He talks about the origins of double entry accounting, double entry bookkeeping, and it's super cool. I've read so many books on blockchain, and all of them are based on this one method of accounting, which is double and then triple method, triple entry accounting. So you have double entry accounting where you have 2 books, and then with cryptographic hashes, you would use cryptography as that third entry that links them all together and validates everything, which is essentially what a blockchain is. Super, super powerful stuff. I'll link some of my original blockchain book review videos below. Those are very, very, very educational, inspiring, powerful, powerful content. But the basis behind all of that stemmed from government trade. And so because of that, you saw this very, very interesting desire for the marketplace, this need for more ways to transact and account. And that stemmed into this new field. It was really, really cool stuff. And I think that kind of drifts us into segue into secret number 2 here, which is really cool, is this idea of where do inventors come from. He's got a whole section dedicated to this, and it's so powerful. It talks about some really cool guys, Apple, Steve Jobs. It's this idea of jobs stemming from different inventions, right? So there was the battery, there was newfound radar technology, newfound machinery, newfound internet technology that actually let the phone work. And it's like, how do all these different inventions come together and manifest themselves into one physical object that in Steve's case, obviously, was the iPhone, which fundamentally changed the world and was one of the most profitable capitalist products on the planet in history, because it had such a high level of value and impact on the individuals that it served, which is super, super cool. And he breaks down exactly how to turn your dreams into reality by compressing all this other information, bringing it all in, taking it in together, and then sort of arranging it, right? Because it's not just one thing, and it's not just one idea, and it's not just one vision. It's a combination. It's about team building, networking, social skills. That's where it came from for so many people. And he looks and he applies that. People like Steve Jobs, people like Diesel, right? Diesel was interesting. He's making the diesel engine, obviously, and he's got all the parts from the world around him, and everything's growing and expanding, and there's oil, and there's materials, and there's metal. But what there wasn't was that creativity, that ingenuity, and that success. And it all came from his ability to connect and say, look, I'm going to go hard, go fast, and only do what I desire for this. And he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And all of a sudden, the guy makes a diesel engine, right? He crushes it. Why does he crush it? He crushes it. He's put in the work, put in the effort, put in the drive, put in the motive, and had a massive, massive impact and level of success from that, which was awesome. It was so cool. And it all stemmed from his ability to go and go and go. And it's something that you see a lot in different models of these people, right? Because they're really like groundbreaking leaders, successors. And it all stems from their ability to take other people's things, put them together, combine them together, and then put a ridiculously insane amount of man force and power behind it so that it turns into that vision, turns into that reality, and manifests itself into its physical equivalent. And that brings us into secret number 3, the biggest one out of all of these, which really blew me away when I learned about it. And it was this idea of very, very simple inventions that have a massive impact on the economy, on the world, on governments. So huge. There are kind of 3 inventions that I want to kind of lump together here because all 3 of them are very great examples of this concept. The first one is the S curve. So when you have plumbing, when you have a toilet, it's got like an S, and then it goes into the toilet, and then it goes out to the street. And then the second one was the shipping container. Very powerful. The shipping container. You guys know shipping containers. They're freaking huge. And then the third one was kind of the most interesting one I wouldn't have expected, but it was concrete. It was concrete. So concrete, the S curve for plumbing, and the shipping container. Those 3 really, really stood out to me. I wouldn't say necessarily like the best inventions, but the ones that had the most immediate economic impact. And obviously, when you guys just grab yourself a copy of this book and you're going to understand all of them about 100 times better than I can explain in this video, because it's just not very easy to do. But here was the really interesting thing, okay? With the shipping containers, what did they do? They allowed people to ship goods. What did that mean? It meant that it was a lot easier to get from country to country. What did that do? It expanded global trade. Huge, huge concept. So with global change up and up and up and up, it meant there was now what? There was now trucking. What else did it mean? There were shipyards. What else did it mean? It meant that countries in Africa were being modernized. There are cities in Africa. I didn't know that for so long. And then I realized that there are cities in Africa. Why do I think there are cities in Africa? Because they have access to global economies. They have global markets. They have global trade. That's all enabled by the shipping industry and by the shipping container, which allows very, very, very cheap shipping, right? And that creates millions and millions and millions of jobs to facilitate the shipping container, which moves tons and tons and tons and tons of goods all the time, over and over. Massive, massive amounts of industries were born all out of the shipping container. I mean, the level of impact is I'd say probably as big as barbed wire fence. It's huge. It's massive. And it's just so interesting. For those of you who don't know, the barbed wire fence, and he talks about it so much better than I could. So that's why I really recommend you click the link below and you grab a copy of this book. But, it was like what allowed Americans, obviously, to expand in the frontier because it was much cheaper, because cowboys, they needed to, like, keep their cows in line. So they couldn't really do it with wooden fences because that was freaking difficult to do. And at the same time, they couldn't just let it not be open. So it was really, really difficult to expand the farm. So they used wooden fences, just like it used to be very, very difficult to ship goods, right? It was hard. You would have to like build a bridge somewhere or, drive it there or horseback it there, depending on the time, or steamboat it there. Or, the shipping container, what it did is it standardized shipping so that masses of goods can be moved at the same time and therefore lower the per item cost. And so just like barbed wire lowered the per item cost, it allowed expansion, it allowed domestic and international economic growth that had a massive, massive impact on all those involved in trade, commerce, development, and success in all aspects of that business growth environment. And that's kind of a really, really powerful concept. But here are the two that are kind of like out of left field, okay? The S-curve and plumbing. Now, this one's pretty interesting because, I'm in America, right? And it's like, I think most people that are watching this are probably in America. Like, there are places in the world that don't have plumbing. And what Tim talks about in here just blew my mind away. It was this idea of the throwable potty. And you might think, well, what's the throwable potty? That's what I thought. And then I realized that this is freaking gross, okay? So what these guys do where they don't have bathrooms is they'll poop in a bag and then they'll just kind of like whirl up the bag and fling it. And it lands on their neighbor's house somewhere. Like, that's kind of gross, dude. That's messed up. But that's what's happening in these countries where there's no toilets. And what's really interesting, if you think about like the prisoner's dilemma, you get 10 years in jail, or you can get, 5 years if you root out the other guy. But if you both get rooted out or you telling each other, then you're both going to get like, 20 years, right? It's this idea that you have the ability for personal gain by cheating, but it's best for the group if the group just sits there and does what's right, at a moral level. So at a moral level, it makes sense for them to invest in toilets. But on an individual level, poop's still going to fly at their house if they invest in a toilet. So why the heck should they do it, right? And it's this idea of like the prisoner's dilemma, like they're going to take that individual gain rather than do what's best for society based on the principles of reward and benefit in capitalism, which totally makes sense, right? And so because of that, these people, they just don't have toilets because everybody would have to have toilets for it to be effective. And the way that they do that is by implementing plumbing systems. So over time, what they'll do is they'll have plumbing systems, but the plumbing systems, they used to not work, right? Because you'd have the toilet plug into the house and then all the sewage water would like leak gas into the house and it smelled like crap everywhere all the time where there was a toilet, which was just disgusting. And so what do? Well, with the S-curve, what's super, super cool is that there's like a little bit of water at the bottom of that curve, right? And so it blocks out the sewage, it blocks out the waste, and it really, really allowed toilets, which used to be a very, very rare occurrence, right? He talks about it in this book. You used to have to pay like 25 cents to go to the bathroom in a toilet because it was like such a majestic, high-level thing. But then it allowed toilets to really start to take off and exponentially grow. So instead of people flinging poop everywhere now, a vast majority of England at the time, and then obviously now the Americas, now globally, people have toilets now, which is sick. It was because it wasn't very easy at the beginning, but with this simple little adjustment that some guy invented, he just kind of thought of it. He's like, well, what if there was like water that stopped it from smelling like shit? He made it, and it had a huge impact on the marketplace and obviously caused tons of success, which is super cool. So with that said, I kind of want to leave you guys off here on one of these last inventions because I think it's one of the most powerful impact inventions, the most powerful change invention, the most powerful invention that can really, really, really fundamentally change someone else's life and bring so much value to them, but at such little cost to the economy, and that's concrete. Now, obviously, you think about concrete, right? And concrete is like, it's cheap. It's supposed to be cheap. You pour it somewhere and you make something and then it just sits there forever. But what was really interesting, what Tim talks about, is the application of concrete in low wealth environments, and specifically in like these African villages where they are living on dirt floors, which are scientifically proven to cause disease and illness through obviously animals and worms in the soil, but also significant health hazards because these guys are inhaling dust all the time. And it seriously freaking messes them up when they're asleep. And so if they could just have concrete floors, it would change their lives. It would expand their life predicted horizon, right? And so what they did is they realized that they could just have like 2 little buckets of concrete, pour them in these houses to make them have floors, and absolutely change their life. And they're doing that all over Mexico. It was super, super powerful. It cost like 10, 15, 20 bucks of concrete, and then to just do it. And it had a massive impact on all the families, which is so, so, so cool. So I think that was one of the coolest applications of like a very simple idea. But you look at it and applying it into a more general sense where you're still profiting from it magnificently, right? The concrete industry is freaking huge. Buildings from it are huge. But you're able to use it as a general benefit to more and more people, which is a really, really powerful concept that I think should be applied to so many concepts and inventions and technologies. So think like, how could you apply what's already out there into something new, into something that's new, right? So awesome stuff, guys. Hope you got a ton of value from this. Go out there, apply it, crush it. And hey, go check out the book on Amazon and just look through the chapters and leave a comment below. Let me know, what's your favorite chapter? What are you the most excited about to read? Because I think it's freaking awesome. There were so many cool things I just couldn't really get through today, but like, they're so awesome, guys. So many life principles and like economic development, business, investing principles you could get from this. It's insane. We didn't even start talking about index funds. Like, it's so go out there, crush it. Have an amazing day. And I'll see you the next one. Thanks so much. Bye-bye. Want more stock market secrets? If so, go get your free copy of my best-selling book, 9 to Noon. You can get your free copy plus $11,176 of unannounced bonuses it took me years to uncover completely for free at 9tonoonsecrets.com. Inside 9 to Noon, you'll find the top 38 secrets you can use to double your portfolio every 2 years and make upwards of 10% per trade daily.